Hey, Tim Branyon, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate when people come on Inner Edison. A lot of people talk to me about coming on, and then it doesn't always work out for them. But I was just glad we were able to connect and get you on. And we kind of been talking before we started, and I was like, we got to get this on the podcast. So let's get going on this. Kind of give a little bit of your background, because I checked you out, and you've been a few different places. But we were talking about. I know I'm going to get you there in a second, about talking about your background. But one thing we were talking about first was about social media presence and how important that is. And it doesn't matter when you start it, just as long as you start it and you focus on it. And so you want to go there for a minute and then go back and tell me how you got all started?
Yeah, sure. And it's been awesome already talking with you, Ed. Appreciate you getting me on and letting me be here today. And I'm glad to be connected with you. But yeah, in regards to the social media stuff, we were just talking a little bit ago and about how, I'm 32 years old and I'm kind of starting late. But the reason why it became important for me to build a personal brand was because the more I've been observing like other mentors or people I look up to in the digital space or tech space, entrepreneurial space, the more I'm seeing similarities, right? They're putting out value. They're the authority in the subject that they're talking about. And by default, they get to help more people. So, for me, I never really had a why before about building a personal brand or getting in front of the camera or, sharing who I am, sharing my truths or ideas or thoughts on subjects. And now it's like, I definitely do. I want to get out there and I want to, who knows, be able to help some folks that are maybe in a position that I've been in previously or share some insight that might be somebody's paradigm shift. So here I am.
Yeah, there you go. And I want to talk about numbers, right? Because everybody's like, you got to have 10,000 followers on Instagram to be an influencer. And you need to have at least this and this and this. It doesn't matter how many you have. There's only 800 of them that'll do anything with you, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I have over 30,000 on my Instagram.
That's awesome.
Right. And that's been, that's been growing over the last 8 months, just posting and putting content out. I do it 5 days a week. I do my videos on Monday for, let me think about it, Real Estate Jerky. So my radio show, I also do a live from it. I bring the person who was on the radio into the studio. On Tuesday, we have a live, sometimes Thursday, depending on if they can't make it, 11 a.m. And then they cut those up into a 58-second little drop, and they put it on Monday. Tuesday, I do a quote. One of the quotes I've said either through Inner Edison or on all my other stuff, they find them and put them. And I didn't really realize I did so many quotes, but I do. And then on Wednesday, they drop my, let me think about which the next one is Helping the Brave podcast that I do. And they take, again, a little less than a minute clip of it that's something good. And they put it there so people will then go, oh, he does that. And let me click on that and go to that and look at it. And then Thursday is a testimonial. And then Friday is the Inner Edison social media stuff.
That's awesome. So, what's cool is it sounds like you've got a whole plan and then a team that helps you with curating, right? Is that?
Yeah, I have a team, and that's the most important thing. But I also hired somebody in-house so I worked for the radio station. I don't mean I worked for them. I do the live radio for them for years for for Real Estate Jerky, the radio show. Uh-huh. And we had to close down going to the studio back in March of 2020 because of COVID, sure. Right? Shut it down for 2 weeks and no big deal, right? And 2 years later, here we are. And so basically I had to set up studios I started at my house, right? Because nobody went to work. Everybody went home. And then we had to figure all that out. And through the process, we were still doing the show, but I wasn't able to create the video content like we did when we were in studio. Because even when I started that in August, I was like, how do I take this on air and put it elsewhere? Right? You're already creating it. How can we do something else with it? And then I'm like, okay, well, I'll have a guy come in and videotape us. I'll have the radio show. I'll take it and put it to a podcast and then put that out there. So now I got the live on radio, I got the podcast, and then I have the video for the YouTube channel. Sure. Well, the YouTube channel did it for a couple of years. And then March of 2020, it kind of stopped because we had no way to videotape it. Then Zoom came. Right. I know this is your podcast, but I'm just trying to explain to you what I had to do and how important it is to get to do this no matter what. And it doesn't matter if you have 30,000 followers on Instagram or 1,000 followers on Instagram, as long as they connect. Because too many people pay for people to get the followers or boost themselves. And there's nothing wrong with boosting content to get people to find you. That's fine. But I mean, it gets to a point where I have 30,000. I'm a mortgage broker, right? Yeah, I do all the other podcasts and the radio show. So some people think I'm an influencer. I don't know who.
No, for sure. And
But I don't.
I want to
I
definitely
don't.
speak on that. And
Yeah.
so there's two things here. One, you should absolutely give yourself permission to be, and you don't have to call yourself an influencer, but you do have influence for sure, because you're an authority in the subject matter that you speak of. And so one thing for sure, definitely give yourself permission to be the authority in that space, and call yourself an expert in this, that, or the other. You don't have to be an influencer if you don't like the terminology. Some people don't. But in
I
regards to
think
like
it's
your
overused.
following, right?
I think it's overused.
In regards to your follower count, though, you're a creator. I like that word a lot better. You create. And, in regards to the follower count, the unique position that I'm in, being the founder of a social media platform, is I've literally seen people with 10,000 followers, 5,000 followers do better than people that have 2.3 million, 3.7 million, 5 million. And I think what a lot of people, it's easy to not focus on is the connectivity that you have with your audience. Who knows, likes, and trusts you? Who's a buyer? Who really rocks with you? Like, who's your audience? Your, what we call it is true fans, but who's your true supporters of what you do? And what I see, what I've seen over the last at least 2.5 years, is the people that have connected with their people the most and given away the most, or like kind of a hybrid between live events and online events. Like they've actually, shook hands and met their folks. Like they do significantly better in the monetization realm, than people that are just acquiring followers and viewers on social media. And while it's, it maybe gives you a little bit of authority or social proof online, there might be a place for it. But at the end of the day, you really want an audience, you really want to, and that takes effort. It takes a lot of work, and it takes, a different mindset, I think, of how am I creating for X.
And that's the biggest thing. Is a lot of people are afraid to do video, do all this stuff because they don't like the way they look, they don't like the way they sound.
Yeah.
And we, dude, we all know how you look and sound, right? It's just the way it is. Luckily I have a decent voice for,
dude, you got a great radio voice. I wish I had a voice. So how did you get over, being on camera and getting out there?
What do you say? I'm fat? Is that what you're saying?
I mean,
Now I am heavier than I used to be years ago, but that's just the way life is. I just did it. Right. I mean, I have a coach, Steve D. Sims, and he wrote the book, Blue Fishing, and he talks about the whole thing. And he's one of those guys that's just like, make it ugly. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just do it. Right. And what he means is just go and make a mistake. Just do it. It's about doing it. And if you go back to my original radio shows that I did back in August of 2018 live, I was horrible. I mean, really horrible.
Do you go back and cringe? You're just like,
no, I don't even listen to them.
No.
I'm like those movie people who don't watch. I listen to myself now so what I've done since I've gotten really comfortable on that, to a point where I listened to Brad Lee on one of Steve's things he put out. And he said, once you get to a point where you just don't care anymore, that you're just going to put the content out and you don't care what people think about you and this, that is when you shine. That is when you actually, and I started doing that 1.5 years ago. I just was like, I'm just going to say what I think. And if you don't like it, oh, well. And I don't cuss. I can't cuss on radio. So at least I have that. And so how I feel about the economy, how I feel about the politics and the bull. You just have to be who you are. And that's what people are afraid of.
Yeah. Well, I think, Brad, if we're, talking about Bradley, and I love that dude, man. He's one of the people that I kind of follow online. I would love to link up with him next time I'm in Vegas. But what I like about him is just his boldness, right? You can tell he's been through some stuff, and he's got grit. And typically when he's sharing advice, it resonates, just like what you were just saying about just getting out there and sending it, let the cards fall where they fall, being your authentic self. That's hard. He talks about like the reason why a lot of people aren't able to is because they have identity issues. They've got personal, like they lack, what's the word? They lack, self-worth, self-value, right? They think of themselves different, and we're all our biggest critic.
Right.
I mean, I'm exactly in the same boat with a lot of people. It's not comfortable when you're first, getting on film or putting a camera to your face or telling whatever you're talking about, whatever topic, getting out there. But yeah, I got to the point literally this year where I was like, it's something that's necessary, man. Like I can help people. I've made millions of dollars online, like through e-commerce, through building apps and software tools. I have no college education or formal education outside of just failing fast with enthusiasm, being crazy enough to not quit, and asking questions of people that are at higher levels than me. And from there, it's like I think I can do more of that. I can grow that just by getting on Front Street and building a personal brand. Now, the hardest thing for me, if I'm being honest, Ed, is like mean people. Mean people, I won't curse. I'm normally a curse.
You say mean people or meat
yeah,
people?
mean people.
Dude, you got didn't
like they
all
suck,
right, so
Like
yeah, but
there's a likelihood that somebody's gonna say that
who
Ginger,
cares?
he's a piece of crap, whatever. It's
Who
just
cares?
like, well, for me, just being brutally honest, like that sucks for me. That was a really hard thing for me to realize that some people really don't want to see me win. Some people really don't like me genuinely.
And that,
And it's
hey,
like,
by the way, I know you're talking here and it's important, but that could be family too, right? People are right. They don't want you to be successful because they feel less. You don't have haters until you're successful, right? They say they boo you right before they applause for you, or they laugh at you right before they applause for you. And that's true. You have to be okay with understanding people aren't going to like me. I mean, I've had comments on things. I had a sheriff on one of my radio shows and then on the live, and this guy later put, these guys are idiots, blah, blah, blah. Right. And so the next time I had him on, I was like, hey, I want to talk about this because this guy said we were idiots. Right. Yeah, I addressed it. I don't care. You have to be okay with that. And it takes a while to just be okay with it.
Sure.
Just afterwards, you'll cry in the corner, come out and come back.
For me, I think like after I proved to myself that I'm successful. Like I proved to myself that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to systems, when it comes to building like software tools or applications. Like there's going to be people that disagree with some of the things that I say and whatnot, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I've done it multiple times now. And it's like now I don't feel as bashful. Like I can say that now, right? Like before 2-3 years ago, I wouldn't have even been bold enough to say that because I hadn't proved it to myself fully, right? So now, now I speak my truth, man, and I'm ready. At the same time, my heart actually goes out to people that are still in this mentality, this toxic mentality of like consuming their time or spending their time like throwing rocks and throwing stones versus like being genuinely curious or aggressively curious. I always trust but verify. But I'm never like trying to hurt somebody in order to, to understand something, comprehend. Hurt people. That's another thing that kind of helped me understand too. It's like, hey man, I don't know where you're at, but I wish you truly nothing but the best. And I hope you find like your ideal lifestyle, your ideal like freedom, whatever it is that they're on a mission to find. Like that's where my heart and head's at for it. Because, at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be happy, I think. But a lot of people are so lost, man, like they'll pull you down in the process of drowning. And it's like,
Well, you also have to define for yourself what success means. And I think the biggest problem is people look at other people to figure out what that is. And that's not the same for everybody. And it's taken me years. I was telling a story yesterday, some guy, we were talking about fear. And I was like, dude, I was like 27 years old with my 500 SL driving out my gated community in Rancho Santa Fe in San Diego, thought I was all that. And then woke up and went, this isn't my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. You don't know Talking Heads, but anyway, that's a Talking Head song. And I was like, and I changed my whole life. And I realized that at that point, it wasn't about the money. I can make as much money as you want. And I still can. It's about giving back and what are you looking to do and what's success to you? And for me, the longest time was success was being there for my kids for their soccer or their other things that they did, doing triathlons, whatever, and having enough time and energy to do all that and make a good living, but not always be in one side of it. Now, my success now is putting more time into work and a little bit less time with my wife and I, because we're just, because we're going to be retired before you know it, right? We're going to be done. We won't want to do anymore. So it just depends on where that is. And you have to define that for yourself. And I think the biggest problem, like I said, everybody looks to other people. And your definition is not going to be the same as anybody else's, and don't make it the same.
Right. Yeah, that's deep. And mine's always changed too, like during the process. Like my ideal my ideal lifestyle, my vision for, my own personal success, right? Like now it's health and wellness. Last year I got fat, dude. I put on like 12 or 15 pounds, and I like saw a picture of myself. Long story short, I laughed, but I was like, I got to do something. And this is a pillar in my life. I need to set a standard on and build towards. And I feel like I'm the most happy when I'm building something or working on a project. And, I've just made these things. This is very recent. I've made these things in my life pillars of my success, right? So like my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, and like my family. Like these are things that I want to take time out and read articles on, and gather information on, and create systems around. And, money obviously is an important aspect, like my economy, financial pillar. But then, all these other pillars that are important to me, when I look at the totality of what is wealth. Because, dude, at a young age, I didn't say any of this. I've got a military background, man. I deployed. I was in a hostile country when I was 18 years old. I was in Iraq in 2009. And, I grew up really quick. And then after that, I went into, contracting. I worked in support of the Department of Defense for one of the largest contracting companies. It was Triple Canopy. Now it's Constellus Group. And, I had great moments in that journey of life, but ultimately I was unhappy. Like towards my third year in, I was making a ton of money. I could travel the world. I didn't have a wife, kids at this time, but I got to this threshold in my life where I realized, I'm not happy. I'm making a ton of money, but I'm genuinely miserable. I'm spending time for money. I feel like I'm in Groundhog's Day. I'm missing out on family time that I'll never get back, like holidays, all this stuff. And I just audited my life. I feel like restlessness and discontent for me has always been like this spark to change. And, that was a moment in my life, like going back to wealth and what success is, that I decided, okay, if I can make half of this money, but own my time, like that seems like a really cool thing. It seems like something I want to do. And, that's ultimately how I got into the tech space, was that primitive thought of, what can I do? What can I build and own that I can work from anywhere? I can make a good amount of money. I can make some residual income, right? I can impact people and serve through the internet. But, I could be around. So, yeah, man, that was 9 years ago, or 9 years ago now. So,
first of all, thanks for your service, because you were in the Air Force.
Yeah. No, it's the smartest
or as
thing I did.
Us Navy people say, the chair force.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for your service, Ed.
No problem.
And it's dope that you've continued you've continued serving. And I love that, man. A lot of our brothers and sisters, they really struggle to find their new mission. And I love that you're doing this. It's just another.
Well, I'm doing Helping the Brave also, which is a live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3:30 Pacific.
Love
and you
it.
come on there and you tell your transition story, what you're doing now, and then we have people come on there talking about PTSD, other stuff. So that's where I'm going back, because I didn't have this when I got out of the service, right? And when I got out, no one cared, right?
I don't even think it was a definition. When did you get out? I mean, you got out
early 90s, right? I missed I missed the first war.
Did they
I missed it by 2.
Have the title of it back then?
Title what? Title what?
Like the PTSD title?
Yeah, it's always been around. It's always been around. But what I'm talking about is I missed the Iraq war by 2 days. So, yeah, because I would have came back, because I was stationed with the Marines. I was at Corpsman. So they would have had me, and I would have went there, and it would have changed everything about me, which I'd rather serve this way than that way. And I got my bachelor's and I got my master's from the, being in the service. So that's helped me a lot. But Absolutely. What I'm getting at is it's important to give back and tell people. And that's what I like about the technologies we have now that is so huge. We could do this. You're in Indiana, right? Is that what you said?
Well, right now I'm in Maryland. I'm actually with some military buddies. We're going to hang out a little bit. But
right,
yeah,
well,
I live in Indiana.
I'm gonna have to get you the little link to Helping the Brave. So
please do, bro. And like side note, I'm working on a project with the state of Indiana. We're bidding for it. We'll see if we get it. But it's with the Department of Veteran Affairs, IDVA, Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, and our goal, high level. I'll break it down more. We want to change the way that veterans are brought home, and it's kind of a mix between technology and assigning them with someone that knows, likes, and they trust each other, that can help them kind of on their path towards finding that new mission. And we think we've got a good idea, but to get more brothers and sisters involved with it, like whether it's through the distribution side or giving feedback, you've been in the business space a long time, just be really cool. So I definitely, I'll say
reach out to me on that.
But we'll connect.
Because I mean the whole reason we started that podcast, which was really, and then we turned it into a live because we had a guy on there. It was the anniversary, the day before was anniversary of the Iraq War. And I know this is your podcast, so we'll go a little bit longer. But anyway, so it was the 30-year anniversary of that. The next day, he got there. That you're assigned to that Bradley, and you're the gunner. This is your driver. Well, the driver and the guy in charge got in a fight that night. You know, we got upset, and so he told the driver, "You're now the gunner, and gunner, you're my driver." It was that day we're recording it. It was the 30-year anniversary of them getting hit in their Bradley, and two of the people died. The other person was wounded. The gunner died, and so you could still hear the survivor's guilt that in his voice. And then I said, after that, when I said we have to go live, so people like us can go, "Hey, brother, we know how you feel," or that whole thing, and connect. I want to connect all of us because we're not. There's small little groups that are not connected, and the whole purpose of Helping the Brave, that's the name of the thing, is to connect everybody. I don't care if you both nonprofits do the same thing and overlap a little bit. I don't care. You need to connect so you can help everybody and stop this. I don't do enough. So whatever you're doing on the technical side, or with that, I need to know and I want to help. So
yeah, totally. And if I can ever be a service to that group, I mean, if you guys have a group, I'd love to be a part of it. I'm always
we'll get you on the show.
Vets too, man.
Yeah, we'll get you on the show, and then so basically for us, like we're always looking for other hosts because I mean. Yeah. It's hard to get a lot of people to be on because a lot of people don't want to share live.
Sure.
Right. And that's the problem. They don't want to do it. They'd rather do a recording and be able to edit it and no, I want it live. I want it raw. I want
literally,
you to know.
Dude, like a minute ago, I realized that we were live like right now. So
we're not live. We're recording right now.
Okay. Yeah. It just says live in the top.
Yeah. That's because, because the software I'm using, I don't want to give them props, but the software I use, this is how I go. You can use this to go live. You can use it for everything. And I used to use Squadcast and Riverside FM, but there was such issues with them. And this StreamYard is just amazing. Yeah.
What's crazy, dude, is I met the founders of this company like 4 years ago. Young dudes out of college. They probably have a big team now, but I was really impressed with this platform years ago. I met it. I actually found it through a guy named Frank Kern, who's a big like internet marketer, business mogul, and he was using it, and I was like, "This is amazing! Like you're on live, you're bringing people up. There's so much you can do. It's phenomenal."
And you can have so many people on talking, and it's a great program platform, I should say.
Props
and plus you can have multiple
guys.
Yeah, you have multiple brands inside of it, like I do, and so like I have it for my radio show, I have it for the other stuff because we did a live on air right through this. So we were on air on 1360 AM locally here on the AM radio, and we were live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube at the same time.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you could hear the callers.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Right. So it was like, everybody's like, "How did you do that?" And it's like, man, I thought about that forever, how to make that work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's super cool. And it's a nice tool. If we ever do a podcast, which I don't know if we will or won't, but I'll probably use StreamYard as well.
Yeah. But I mean, and the one thing about it is getting that information out there that you want to do. And the easiest way to do that for most people is podcast, because you can get in, and you want to get in other people's, like you're doing, sandbox. And talk about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have finally been getting on other people's podcasts, which has always been, I have them on my podcast and we go for it, but now I'm getting asked to be on other people's podcasts, or what I call OPP.
Yep. No, I like randomly met Alex, who owns Podmatch, and that's how I've been just having opportunities to connect with other people. And Alex is an awesome guy. Podmatch is a sweet platform. So I'm glad that he brought that concept into fruition too, and here we are.
Right? I had him on my podcast, and then he's like, "Hey, by the way, I have this. So here's a free thing. Sign up." And of course, I didn't do the free one because I wanted to do everything else, right?
Yeah.
So now I just have to go back on there and say, "I would like to be on your podcast," right? So
no,
my biggest problem is when I get on someone's podcast, I control it sometimes because they don't know what they're. I've been doing it so long. It's like, okay, all right, okay, this way, let's do this. I had one lady who she was doing it on about helping people buy homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's not our agent. She's a school teacher, but she was trying to be a coach on this to help people buy their first investment property. And I tried to explain to her, I said, that's very risky. Like we were talking about wholesale in the beginning before we got on air.
Right.
You have to be really careful. And so I was talking to her, and I found through the whole our podcast where she was interviewing me, I was asking her questions too. But I found out she was totally into helping women through divorce because she was going through one. And I said, that's your podcast.
Yeah.
Not this other thing. That right there, because when you talk about it, you light up. Yep. You don't light up when you're saying, I said, and on that podcast, you can help people with the investment side of it, bring people in. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is you don't have to be amazing at everything, but you can bring in those people who are to help your audience and grow your audience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, I don't know, the best entrepreneurs are really good at solving puzzles. They realize that they don't have to know it all. They don't have to be it all, but they can identify where those shortcomings are and fill the gaps and adapt and overcome. That's why I'm a huge proponent of military folks. This is just my background. It's what I know.
Veterans are the best.
Like, dude, we're so good at just
task oriented. We used to go figure it out.
Yeah, and it's because we had to, in a lot of situations, whether your air conditioner broke, you lost a tire or whatever. I mean, you're in a crappy situation. But that's business, that's entrepreneurship, is figuring it out with enthusiasm and focusing on your primary target, which is your, who you're serving and what they're getting. And it's a lot of fun, man. And for me personally, it's been like my it's been my new mission forefront since leaving the military. I understand why some people could be depressed. I understand why people could feel like they've left their military time and now, they're a civilian and they look at it like it's lesser than, even though they're living a linear life, it's just a different chapter in their linear life. It's like, look, man, you gotta serve again, and you can do that in a multitude of different ways. You just have to be inspired enough to take action and get out of your own way. You're not just, whatever your rank was when you were in, you've actually got a ton of skill if you allow yourself to go out there and do something.
Yeah, you got to find your purpose again. That's the biggest problem. Most people who have put in a lot of time in the military, when they get out, they've lost their purpose. They don't, every day they get up, they knew exactly what they were going to do. They didn't have a choice, right? They'd go do. Now they're out. You got to find that same purpose. And that is, and that's the big thing we bring up all the time on the other show is the transitioning. How did you figure out? Because they don't think a year out. They don't think a long-term out. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm out today because I got medically discharged, right? They didn't have a choice and they're all of a sudden they're out. Yeah. Well, it's important to have that. And that's in everything we do, from one job to the next or from one company to the next that you're creating or whatever you're doing. But I was just thinking, we never even talked about your True Fanz. You kind of brought it up for a second. And we talked about everything else. But what is True Fanz before, so people know what that is? Yeah.
So, True Fanz is a platform that helps content creators get paid to post. It started, I never really set out to have good ideas. I set out and I'm just really good at observing like what sucks or what is not going right, whether it's for a company or an individual, a body of individuals. So True Fanz actually started with that same methodology. We looked out and we saw that people were being demonetized. We looked out in traditional social media and people are being limited in, how many people actually see their posts. They're trying to build a community page and only like 1% sees it, if that. Yeah. And we saw people were getting kicked off of platforms because their dialogue, they were having different ideas when it comes to, politics, whatever it is. It's like they were being removed. And ultimately, in my opinion, creators have been historically underpaid and undervalued, like since the dawn of social media, in comparison to what the big platforms are making. And all of that's becoming more like known now. But anyway, so like we looked at all these things and then we looked at our competitors, Patreon, OnlyFans, Fans. There's so many out there now that some of them are here today, gone tomorrow. But, we had belief that we could do better and we were going to be different. So we staked our flag in the fact that we were going to be 100% invite only. We staked our flag that we were going to have excellent customer support that actually responds back to people. We pay more. We pay faster. We actually just launched instant payments. So once somebody's earned money on the platform, they can take it out whenever they want, how much they want.
How do they earn money on the platform?
Right.
By charging their fans or charging the people or what?
Right. So basically True Fanz becomes your own membership site, becomes your own portal, if you will. And you have existing audiences, whether you're a coach, whether you're a trainer, whether you're a model. The biggest thing that's different with us, we don't allow porn. So we're a home for folks that would love to have.
So you're not OnlyFans?
Right. So that's the thing. We wanted to be different, right? So we decided we're invite only, and we're not going to allow adult content. So we could be a home for folks that would love to have an OnlyFans, but don't want the connotation.
Right.
So anyway, so yeah, that's where we stuck our flag. And in regards to somebody earning, whether you're a coach, chef, even you, a podcaster, anybody that's got an audience, you would create a True Fanz, and you wouldn't necessarily have to change what you're already posting anyway. You're just giving away like the last 10% or your favorites out of the content you're already producing, and you house it inside your membership portal. And then you assign, a subscription price for somebody to gain access to that content that would otherwise be locked. And then internal of your channel, you get 100% reach, and there's multiple different methodologies where you can monetize through pay-per-view, through your messaging dialogue, which is all encrypted. You can go live. You can, create upsells. You can set goals. Like if you have a $10,000 goal, you want to go to Hawaii, you're a traveling photographer, whatever. You can create a community. And for like nonprofits, it's the smartest thing in the world, because it's changing the way that people can contribute to your cause, but also changes the way that they can see visually through content how those dollars are going to work, right? And it's really cool. I'm pumped for it. We're growing rapidly. COVID helped in that regard. I had a couple software tools that I owned that went to absolute crap because we were selling to local business, and that was tough. But this one actually did substantially better because it became a life preserver for a lot of folks that, weren't on the road anymore, had to make a transition, or had to, find an alternate route, musicians, comedians, etc. So yeah, that's a little bit about the platform. Hopefully that shapes
I just was curious. Yeah. Cause you see, everybody hears about OnlyFans, and then the people who are on there doing other stuff, they're like, you're on OnlyFans. You don't want to be on there anymore. Right.
Yeah,
there's too many accountants on there.
They have a phenomenal platform. They've made billions of dollars, and it's wonderful. The issue is, and I think they know, it's been overrun by the adult sector, and because it's not gated, it's not invite only. Anybody and everybody can go in, like Walmart. It's like, come on in, whoever you are. And for me, number one, I didn't want that from a security standpoint. Like I didn't want to maintain an infrastructure and not know who is, uploading content onto the platform. I feel like that's a risk that I didn't want to take from a security standpoint. And then number two, because we wanted to be this focused, prestigious group, we made it invite only. So literally the only way someone can get access is, and I'll give you access, Ed, people can come through you, but typically they would go to truefanz.com and apply. They put in their information, who they are, their social medias, and then explain why we should let them, in. And then literally I've got a team that does manual background checks. They go through and they see who is this person? What are they posting? What are they about? Approve or deny. And then the only other way is when somebody's a verified creator, they can invite other creators. Once we verify that they are who they say they are, they're good people. Then they can invite others. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. That sounds like I didn't know anything about it. I looked at it and I saw that it had grown. I just didn't know anything about it. That's why I don't like to get to know everything before you come on the show, because I like to be surprised a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of like Johnny Carson. You do it to a little point. And by the way, he was the guy that had originally the Tonight Show. Sorry.
Yeah. You saw me side Googling him over here.
Yeah. What's that?
Johnny Carson. I've heard that name before.
DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, I'm 32.
I don't use Google anymore. DuckDuckGo. Yeah. He was before Jay Leno, who is now before Jimmy, whatever his name is, Jimmy Fallon.
See, I know who Jay Leno is and Jimmy Fallon. I'd have to Google the other one.
Dude, Carson was on. I only knew the very end. Right before Jay Leno took over, because Jay Leno was like on. It would show up occasionally and fill in for him, and then he ended up getting it for the longest time. Yeah. Which, what are you gonna do? So that's what you do. You fill in for other people, and then you might get their shows or whatever. I don't want to do that. I want to create my own stuff.
Heck yeah.
But yeah,
I'm all for it, creating.
Yeah, I definitely want to get more involved with your veteran thing, and I want you to get involved with our veteran stuff. Is there anything else you want to go over before we go?
No, I mean,
I think we had a great conversation about a lot of stuff,
sure.
social media, all that kind of stuff, and then you brought it back to what you are doing right now, which I think is very important because you need to get paid for your content, right? I mean, the biggest problem, like if you go on YouTube, you got to get 4,000 hours before you can start monetizing, right? And that's not a big deal, but it's just really, what do you get out of it? Here's some ads, right? And here's this, here's that.
And it's not a good split, man. You know, I'll be bold and say that you're not making near the correct percentage of money based on the views that you're sending. This company's making billions from people that want to advertise to the audience that you're ultimately bringing to their platform. It's not a good negotiation. It's not a good deal. And they'd be mad at me for saying that because I'm cutting into their profit margin. But I think what's more indefinitely important in the, you know, the direction that business is going is, you know, ownership, giving people what's right and what's fair. There's so many systems and processes in place that I feel like are super old school, that are very greedy and very much, you know, not paying homage to the totality of like what's getting them there. They've lost track of that. And I think that, you know, this is just my thought. My theory is the companies that are empathetic towards their users, towards their, you know, their buyers and their entire infrastructure, you know, and do right to make sure people are paid well, we'll do the best.
Right. Well,
anyway, that's my thought.
Right. It just takes time for them to go away. Right.
Yeah.
They mess up, you know, eventually they will maybe change their name and really screw up.
Right.
But
sheesh.
Right. I mean, that's just, they get to a point where they think and then they're not here anymore. Right. I mean, there's a life cycle of everything. And, you know, there are some companies who've been around forever, but then they're not here one day. And I mean, if you look in my side, my industry, the lending industry, if you look back at how many companies are no longer here because of this or that, it's amazing. So you never know. So all you can do is build it and see if they will come.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead. No, you're good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. I know your audience is entrepreneurs and people, you know, I think in the business space, right?
They're actually, I mean, they're kind of all over. People who want to start their business, want to do this, want to do content, you know, everybody. So I feel you're a media company first, then whatever you do second in today's world.
Yeah.
Because you have to be. I mean, that's why you have to be out in front talking to people. I mean, it's easier now to create a commercial for yourself by doing these things, right?
Yeah.
Than actually having to pay back in the day $50,000 to create a commercial to be on TV that really didn't do anything, right? Or this others are paid per every minute you're on there, where now you could be on and I want to go back to your 1% statement you made. I put my content when I go live on multiple channels I have on Facebook, right? And they say, and the reason is because only 2% of your people are going to see it. Right. And it's true. It's all they see. And then, I mean, then you do LinkedIn and YouTube and all that. It's the same thing. I mean, not everybody knows. I constantly hear people say, I see constantly going live. Didn't mean they watched it, but they see that I went live and they know I went live. That's good enough for me. They'll come back later and see the content.
You're either one of two types. You're either a consumer or you're a creator. You can be a both. Like if you're a creator, you're obviously consuming here and there, but some people are just consumers. And it's like, if you want to be in business and you want to do, you know, really well, then more people need to know who you are. And how you do that is you create content although, you know, I'll sympathize. It's very uncomfortable when you first start, but do it anyway. Get over it. A lot of things are uncomfortable when you first start, whether you're playing the violin, you're running a mile, you just started going back to the gym. I know that now firsthand. I was fat last year. I did something about it. I took action, and I'm not anything special outside of I'm able to get through my own nonsense to take the action and discipline myself to get to the result I want. That's it. I feel like, and the more I'm really trying to like focus on building that, Tim, like that mentality, the more successful I'm becoming. but it's work, and it's uncomfortable. And it's like, that's it. And it's boring at times too, dude. I'll be honest. Like, I see, and you and I are in this space where we see other entrepreneurs, business people talking, and a lot of people highlight, especially on Instagram, a lot of people highlight it like it's the best thing in the world to build a business and do this thing that they're doing right before they sell you their course.
Right.
But the reality is, it's a lot like chopping a tree down. Once you figure out what works, and once you figure out the consistency and the discipline, it's chopping a tree down every day and being able to do that consistently over time, like do that work. That's what's going to get you paid. And, that'll at least help you get to your first million, I think, is
right.
just being disciplined. And so I don't know, hopefully that's,
it's the same thing with working
somebody
out, right? If you're trying to build muscle, it's consistency. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to build knowledge, it's consistency with reading, whatever you're trying to do, it's consistency. And that's the same thing with media. You have to, with whatever you put out there, you have to put it out there consistently. Yep. And know that it's going to be put out there. Because if you don't, then they don't know it's not going to help. If you do one thing right now and then something next week or the week after, that's not consistency. You need to say, I'm going to do it this, I do 5 days a week. I do this, I do that. I put out, I think it was 356 videos last year, right? Basically over.
Jeez.
Right.
And you didn't feel good every single one of those days, right? Like, it wasn't like you were pumped every single day to do the video, but you did it, right?
Well, I'm in sales.
Right.
So as you learn in sales, you turn it on before you walk through the door.
Explain that. What do you mean?
Basically, it doesn't matter how you feel right now. Before you walk, so when we used to sell, we'd walk into someone's office or you pick up the phone, same thing. So before you walk in, Zig Ziglar used to say, do a checkup from the neck up. And so you would change the way you feel, things about how you are. And you could have the worst day. Their wife just yelled at you because you were screwed up or whatever. Yeah. But the moment you about ready to walk through that door, you turn it on and you change yourself to who you really are and forget everything before that. Do your thing. And then once you're done, you can go back to feeling the way you were. But at that point, you need to just turn it on. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
It's the same thing that actors do. I mean, that was, so when I was in the Navy in San Diego, I did acting and modeling just because I was in San Diego. And I learned a lot from taking classes and stuff, which is now sometime I hope
that's
it's helping
how I
me.
recognize you, man. You're on Baywatch. That's what it was.
No, it was all porn. Anyway.
Hey, you said it, not me. That was where I recognized. No, I'm just playing.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I did nothing amazing, but it was like, and I even did training videos for the military because they needed somebody. It wasn't about that. It was just putting yourself out there because I wanted to be in sales.
Right.
It's just to be, it's the whole thing you said earlier about being uncomfortable. I do everything I possibly can to do stuff that makes me uncomfortable.
That's living. I feel like, I think once you realize like, that's actually like, that's life. Like being uncomfortable and making progress is what life is about. And that's what makes it rich. Like then you become this, you become the psycho where you start putting yourself, look at David Goggins is somebody who, if you really want to learn about being uncomfortable and loving the pain of progress, that dude's,
or stupidity, one of those.
Whatever it is.
I mean, he'll go back and say, I was such a dumbass for doing what I did in my body at that time. Right.
But yeah, some people have never even given that a shot, right? Like given that uncomfort a shot. Just try it for 90 days or give something a shot. It would be my encouragement.
If you're trying to better yourself, the only way to do that is to do stuff that you're not used to and that's just going to make you uncomfortable. And whatever that is, I mean, you need to do it. You're probably going to fail at it, which is okay. That's like Inner Edison. Their greatest accomplishments come from our greatest defeats.
Yep.
You have to work at it. And you're not going to be amazing at it. You're going to be horrible. Everybody has content anywhere that's successful right now. Go back to their first things on their YouTube channels from back 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago and see how horrible it was.
This is going to be mine. I'm going to go back from I'm dead serious. Like all these podcasts that I've been doing recently, I was telling my wife about it the other day. I was like, I know I suck right now, but I'm going to come back to these later and like see the progress that's been made. Because I'm learning how to be a guest. I'm learning how to, I'm learning how other people run their shows. Right. I'm observing, I'm here. And it's like that I can be proud of despite how crappy of a guest I am right now.
You're not a crappy guest, but you're going to have to learn what do you want to get across? So if you see on when I put in there, what's a win for you today, right? That is what you need to know, what you need to get across. And the first 5 minutes, 6 minutes into the show, you're supposed to bring up your website. So people can contact you. I do it cheaply. I put it right there on where my name is.
Nice.
Right. That's who I am, right? That's, you want to find out everything about me, business wise, everything I do, podcast, radio, mortgages, whatever, go to edparcaut.com. There's only so many Parcauts in the world that are left. So it was easy for me to get that one.
Are these hyperlinks too? Like these little areas?
No, they're not.
That's a feature request then for.
It's just inside there where you're adding. But the issue is when you post this, like on YouTube and other places where we post it, those all can be there. So you can do stuff with it. But you need to have why you're on there. And that's like my coach, Steve. He's like, you're going to do a few podcasts. We're going to go through them, and then we're going to put more of a plan together so you get across your message that you want to get across on each one of the ones. And that's all you need to do. So if you're going to come on someone's podcast, this is for anybody who's listening, you need to have a purpose why you're there and what you want to get across besides the normal conversation that you have. Right.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I'm always asking for like little notes and tidbits. And you said something clutch there too, Ed. You said you're a coach. So you sought training and you sought, coaches. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people are opposed to, at least early on as a startup, maybe, or a new entrepreneur. It's hard to. You
need it throughout your life, man.
Yeah.
And I always say with this Inner Edison, I always explain that what I've interviewed so many people. And the one thing that everybody has is they have a coach, a cornerman, or a strategic mastermind group that they get together with, or they have all three. And that's how they do better, because you get around and my coach is Steve D. Sims, but he puts together these speakeasies every quarter, and there's only 40 people who can come to these things, right? You have to sign up. And then he has these people on stages that you're like, oh, I didn't even think, and they're amazing people, right? I mean, people, and I've had a lot of them on my podcast because of it, but the 40 people in the audience, because I keep getting asked, and I say this about every other podcast I'm on, they keep asking me, why do I keep coming back? And I'm like, it's the people in the audience, because I connect with them and they're like-minded like me. Not that that's a good thing, but anyway, and we build though off of things, and we learn from each other because of it. And that's what's so important. And these are the groups you need to be part of. And that's like helping the brave, helping veterans get through it, having them together so they have a group to come to. I mean, there's so many things out there they had no idea that's there. And I'll tell you about it afterwards, because we're at like 47 minutes. We need to get out of here.
Cool. I look forward to it, man. Thank you again for having me on. And it's been a
Tim,
pleasure.
thank you. Tim, thanks so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad we got through a lot of stuff that we talked about. Some stuff that had to deal with this and some stuff that didn't, but I think it was all good content and people are going to really enjoy it. And thanks again so much for being here.